What do you do when the place that feeds the hungry starts turning people away? Alden Everett stood in the back room of one of his own soup kitchens, pulling a volunteer apron over his flannel shirt. He adjusted the simple baseball cap low over his eyes, tucking away the last of his graying curls. The name stitched on his tag read Tom. He didn't look like a CEO today, just another man trying to help. He'd inherited the company from his father 7 years ago. 10 locations across the state. A mix of food pantries, soup kitchens, and transitional shelters. His dad had started it after recovering from homelessness himself, and Alden had always respected that legacy. But in recent months, he'd noticed something changing. Donations were steady. Paperwork looked fine. But the feedback, it was off. A few handwritten letters from guests mentioned feeling unwelcome. One even said, "They looked us over like we didn't belong." That didn't sit right with him. Alden didn't want secondhand answers. So he picked the busiest location, Store 8, on the east side, and signed up to volunteer under a fake name. It wasn't hard to pass unnoticed. He'd never met the on-site team. Most of them came through hiring agencies or local outreach. The district manager, who handled staffing, had only ever shown him spreadsheets and reports. "Tom, right?" A sharp voice called out from behind him. He turned to see a lean woman in her early 40s, hair pulled into a tight bun, clipboard in hand.
"Yeah,
"That's me. I'm Dana," she said shortly. "Manager here. We're short on dish staff today, so you're on cleanup. Don't talk to the guests unless they ask for help. Keep your head down and don't get in the way of service." "Got it." Cleanup gave Alden the perfect vantage point. He stayed in the back, rinsing trays and wiping tables, but he watched everything. The way Dana barked at volunteers. The way she checked people at the door like a bouncer. And the way she barely looked at the guests, just scanned them, then waved them in or out. On his third day, something happened that stopped him cold. A young woman walked in, clutching the hands of 2 small kids. The boy, maybe 7, held a worn backpack. The girl, even younger, had a coat 2 sizes too big. The woman stepped up to Dana's check-in table quietly. "We haven't been here before. Is it okay if we were full?" Dana said flatly, not even looking up from her clipboard. Alden glanced around. The dining area was half empty. No one was even at the back tables. The woman hesitated. "We haven't eaten since yesterday. Can we wait for a spot?" "I said we're full," Dana snapped. "Try again tomorrow." The kids looked up at their mom, confused. The woman nodded stiffly and turned to leave, keeping her voice calm. "Okay, come on, babies, let's go." Alden dropped the towel and stepped forward. "Wait," he said quickly. "There's room." Dana turned on him. "Excuse me? There's plenty of seats open. They can eat." "You're cleanup, not staff," Dana shot back. "Don't overstep." He looked at the mother, who lingered near the door, eyes wide. She looked like she was trying not to cry. "I'm just saying if we've got space, we don't." Dana set her clipboard down with a thud. "You don't know how this place works. Some people come in here just looking for handouts. We have to watch for that." Alden's heart dropped. "Isn't that the point?" Dana narrowed her eyes. "You want to keep your volunteer slot, stay in your lane." The woman and her kids were already gone. Alden stood frozen for a moment, fists clenched at his sides. He couldn't follow them without blowing his cover.
Not yet.
Not until he figured out how deep this went. That night, he sat in his car for over an hour before starting the engine. His stomach turned with guilt. He could have stopped it. He should have done more. But he needed time. He needed to know if this was just Dana or something bigger. And he needed to see who else was caught in the middle. The next morning, he returned early. A different staff member was setting up. A woman in her late 20s, curly hair tucked under a bandana, sleeves rolled, moving fast but with care. "Need help with the crates?" Alden asked, grabbing a box. She glanced up and smiled.
"Sure."
"Thanks, Tom. You always come in this early?" Only when Dana's not around, she said, half joking. Makes it easier to get things done. What's your name? Delia, she said. Delia Carter. Alden noticed the way she greeted every guest that day, eye contact, calling people by name, asking how they were doing. He also noticed how she got quiet every time Dana showed up. Later that day, while they both cleaned trays, Alden asked carefully, "Has Dana worked here long?" "Too long," Delia muttered, then caught herself. That's not fair. She runs things tight. Not everyone likes that. Do you? Delia hesitated. She's efficient. But sometimes it gets cold in here, you know? And this place is supposed to be the opposite. Alden nodded.
Yeah.
It is. That night, he looked over the files he'd kept hidden in his briefcase. Complaints logged. Volunteer turnover rates. One thing was clear, Store 8 had a problem. But he also saw Delia. And a few others like her. People who still cared. Tomorrow, he'd stay longer. Watch more. And the next time someone got turned away, he wouldn't just stand there. He'd be ready. Because he wasn't just cleaning trays. He owned the place. And something was broken. Next time, he'd start fixing it. Alden arrived before sunrise the next morning, the sky still a dull gray. The building's back loading door was open, and the smell of fresh onions and stale bread met him before he stepped inside. Delia was already there, unloading a crate of donated produce onto the prep table. Her hair was tied back with a different bandana today, green with tiny white dots. "You're early again," she said without looking up. "Figured I'd be useful before the floodgates opened," Alden replied, lifting a sack of potatoes from a second crate. She leaned her weight into a laugh. Floodgates. That's one way to put it. The two worked quietly for a while, the clang of metal trays and the low hum of the refrigerator filling the space between them. As they sorted bruised apples from good ones, Alden noticed a boy, maybe 17 or 18, walk in through the side entrance. He looked exhausted. His uniform hoodie was 2 sizes too big, sleeves rolled up to his elbows. He gave a quick nod to Delia. "Morning, Jonah." "Hey," the teen mumbled, already pulling on plastic gloves. Delia turned to Alden. "That's Jonah. He's been doing morning shifts before school." "Lives over on Pearl." Alden caught the subtle way she said it, not with pride, but concern. "How many hours is he working?" "Too many," she said, peeling an orange with a paring knife. "But we're short. He's reliable and Dana trusts him." Alden took that in. Jonah didn't speak again, only moved from station to station with quiet efficiency. His eyes had the dull weight of someone used to being overlooked. By mid-morning, the dining hall filled out. Today's meal was a lentil curry with rice and flatbread. A warm, hearty dish. Delia had added a pinch of cinnamon to the pot, saying it made everything feel more like home. Alden had never tasted lentils like that before. As he cleared trays, he watched guests come and go. Some stayed to chat with volunteers. Others ate in silence and left without a word. It was the rhythm of the place, always in motion, always on the edge of something. At around 11, while refilling the utensil bins, Alden saw Dana enter from the office hallway. She moved quickly, clipboard in hand, her lips pressed into a flat line. Volunteers near the front straightened up. A few stopped talking mid-sentence. "We're getting a state inspection next week," she announced to no one in particular. "No clutter near exits. Keep condiment areas wiped down. And if anyone can't follow protocol, let me know. I'll replace them." She didn't look at Alden, but he felt the words aimed at him. Later, in the break room, he sat on a crate next to a young man with short, carefully combed hair. The name on his tag read Marcus. He was eating a peanut butter sandwich from a paper bag, eyes fixed on the floor. "You on lunch?" Alden asked. 15 minutes. "Then I'm back on dish duty. You like working here?" Marcus hesitated. "It's not bad. Beats the warehouse. At least I'm not on forklifts anymore." You full-time? He nodded. Technically. But hours fluctuate. Dana says it's based on need. Some weeks I get 25, others barely 18. Alden kept his voice casual. That's hard to plan around. Marcus gave a soft chuckle.
Tell me about it.
My landlord doesn't care about Dana's need-based hours. The bell rang out front, the signal that another round of guests had started lining up. Marcus stood, wiped his hands on his pants, and walked out. Alden followed a few minutes later and saw something that made him stop cold. A man, maybe mid-60s, stood at the front desk with his coat unzipped, holding a reusable grocery bag. His voice was low, but the way he leaned forward said he was pleading. Dana stood with her arms crossed. I told you yesterday, she said. We don't give second portions to people who already picked up this week. I didn't come yesterday. I was at the hospital. You can call. You had Monday's bag. That's your allotment. We're not making exceptions. The man stepped back, blinking hard. I wasn't asking for extra. Just a meal. I didn't get to eat today. Dana pointed toward the exit. Then you should have come earlier. He stood there, shoulders hunched, eyes darting toward the dining room like he might sneak through. Dana followed his gaze. Don't even think about it. Rules are rules. Alden walked toward them without thinking. Is there a problem? He asked. Dana turned toward him sharply. This doesn't concern volunteers. The man's asking for food. That's why we're here, right? She exhaled through her nose, annoyed. We can't serve everyone, Tom. If we bend today, we break tomorrow. That's how you lose control. Alden looked at the man. You said you were at the hospital? The man pulled a folded paper from his coat pocket. It was a discharge slip, dated 2 days ago. I had a blood clot in my leg, he said quietly. They kept me overnight. Alden took the slip, scanned it, and handed it back. You live nearby? Just off Whitaker. I walk here. Dana stepped forward. This isn't your call, Tom. Alden turned. You're right. It's not Tom's call. He pulled off the cap and tucked it under his arm. Dana's face shifted, confusion replacing annoyance. My name is Alden Everett. The room went silent. I own this facility, he continued, and the 9 others like it. Dana's arms dropped to her sides. I've spent the last 5 days here, watching how we treat people, watching who we turn away. Delia stepped out from the kitchen, holding a serving spoon. Jonah froze near the soup station. The man with the discharge slip stood quietly, still clutching his bag. You want to talk about control? Alden said, stepping closer. Control isn't denying food to a man who just got out of the hospital. It's making sure this place runs with compassion and structure.
Both.
Not one without the other. Dana's voice was thin. I was following intake protocol. No, you were following your own judgment, Alden said. And that judgment has created a place where volunteers are afraid to speak and people in need walk away hungry. He turned toward the man. Please come in. You'll eat today. And every day you need to. The man nodded, eyes glassy, and walked slowly toward the dining room. Delia stepped beside Alden. You really own it? Yes, he said, not taking his eyes off Dana. And I'm ashamed it got this far without me seeing it. Dana didn't speak. You're relieved of your duties, effective immediately, Alden said. I'll have someone from admin collect your keys by end of day. She looked like she wanted to argue, but the room was watching. She turned and walked briskly toward the office hallway without another word. When she was gone, Alden exhaled. The tension in his chest eased for the first time in days. Delia leaned in. What happens now? Alden looked around the room. Jonah stood still near the soup pot. Marcus peeked in from the kitchen. Even some of the guests had paused, trays in hand.
Now,
Alden said. Now we get back to what this place was meant to be. He turned to Delia. I need your help. And Jonah's. And Marcus's. I've got a lot to learn about how this place really runs. But I'm listening now. Delia nodded. Good. Because there's a lot to fix. Alden looked down at the apron still tied around his waist. Then let's start. Alden stayed behind that evening well past closing. The chairs had been stacked, the floors mopped, and the last of the trays scrubbed clean. The building had fallen into that quiet, post-shift stillness only those who'd worked a long day could appreciate. Delia sat at a folding table, flipping through the volunteer schedule with a tired but focused look. Jonah was still wiping down the prep counters, moving slower now, but with the same careful intent. Alden stood by the window, watching the last guest disappear into the dusk. "Tomorrow's going to feel different," he said, not turning around. Delia looked up. "It already does." He finally turned, rubbing the side of his neck. "I don't expect anyone to trust me just because I walked in with a different name. But I want to get this right. For real." She leaned back in the chair. "Then start by asking questions instead of giving answers." That stopped him. He walked over and sat across from her. "What's really going on here?" he asked. "Not Dana's version. Yours." Delia tapped a pen against the table. "We've been running short for months. Not just food, but people. Schedules keep shifting. Volunteers quit halfway through the week because they feel ignored. Staff tries to cover, but it's never enough. And when we do speak up, we're told to work smarter. Work smarter. Which really means work more, complain less." Jonah slid into a seat beside her, wiping his hands on a rag. "I've been doing double prep shifts on school days just to keep the line moving." Alden had noticed. "Have you told anyone that?" "Tried. They said I was young, flexible, and had energy to burn. Then gave me 10 more hours." Delia added, "He's not the only one. Marcus is one rent payment away from giving up. And there's Janine, she's been pulling pantry inventory solo since January." Alden frowned. Why wasn't this on record? Because the reports only ask for numbers, not people. She slid the volunteer chart across the table. "Look here. Dana kept us just above minimums. On paper, it looks efficient. In practice, it's unsustainable." He scanned the chart. She was right. Shifts were filled with just enough bodies to meet compliance, but never more. No backups. No flexibility. No time for burnout. Jonah leaned forward. "When you're always bracing for the next shortage, it changes you. You stop thinking about the people coming in. You just try to survive the shift." Alden nodded slowly. "That explains the staff fatigue. But what about the guests? Why were some being turned away when we had room?" Delia hesitated. Dana had a list. She kept it private, but we all knew it existed. People she thought were abusing the system. She'd memorized faces. If someone didn't look hungry enough or came back too soon, she flagged them. Jonah added, "Sometimes she'd make them wait outside until they gave up." Said it kept things clean. Alden clenched his jaw. "How many people do you think walked away without food because of that?" Delia's voice was flat. "Too many." He stood and began to pace. "I'm going to start rebuilding this place. Not just the staff structure, but the culture. We'll begin with honest hours, full staffing, and a zero-tolerance policy for gatekeeping food." Delia raised an eyebrow. "You'll need more than words." "We've been hearing promises for years." He nodded. "Then I'll show it. First thing tomorrow." The next morning, Alden returned before first light. He brought coffee. Not in a box, but brewed himself 3 thermoses, all labeled. He handed one to Jonah without a word. The teen blinked, then poured himself a cup like it was the first warm drink he'd had in days. By 7, the staff meeting began. They gathered in the main hall. Delia, Jonah, Marcus, Janine, and 2 others Alden hadn't met yet. No one sat. People leaned, arms crossed or hands in pockets. The tension was quiet, but solid. "I'm not here to give speeches," Alden began. "I'm here to listen and act. You've been running this place without the support you need. That changes now." No one interrupted. I've already spoken with headquarters. We're increasing hourly pay by 20%, effective next cycle. We're also approving a second shift supervisor and rotating coverage, so no one's pulling double shifts without choice. Marcus, standing near the back, let out a breath. You're serious? Yes, Alden said. And I'm not done. He stepped closer. We're hiring 2 additional floaters, one for prep, one for intake. They'll cover gaps and give you breathing room. Volunteers will be on board properly, and feedback channels will be anonymous and direct to me. Janine, a woman with streaks of gray in her braids and a tired but sharp gaze, finally spoke. What's the catch? No catch, Alden said. Just accountability. From me. From everyone. Jonah stepped forward. What about the people we turned away? Alden looked at him. I can't undo what was done, but I can make sure the door stays open to all. Delia stepped beside Jonah. Let us help rework the intake process. No lists, just needs. Alden nodded. You're in charge of that. Build it how you know it should be. The room stayed quiet, but something shifted. Shoulders dropped, arms uncrossed. For the first time, people looked at each other instead of the floor. Later that afternoon, Alden sat with Marcus in the back hallway, where the sunlight filtered in through a warped window. I used to think running a place like this meant keeping it tight. Efficient, Alden said. But it can't run on numbers alone. Marcus nodded. You can't budget for dignity. That line stayed with Alden. He called headquarters that evening, told them to remove the old performance metrics. From now on, evaluations would include guest feedback, staff turnover, and on-the-ground reports from each location. He also asked for a dedicated HR liaison to be placed at Store 8 permanently for the next 3 months. Someone who could listen, mediate, and make sure change actually happened. That night, Alden sat again in the parking lot, watching the lights shut down one by one inside the building. He thought about the woman with the 2 kids. The man with the discharge paper. The people who never spoke up, who just left quietly. He hadn't seen them again yet. But he would. And when they returned, the door would be open. No lists.
No clipboard judgments.
Only a place that saw them. And served them.
Like it was meant to.
3 weeks passed. The morning air had turned colder, and the wind coming off the alley behind Store 8 carried that dry bite of early winter. The kind that made people walk faster, talk less. Inside the soup kitchen, the changes were slow but real. Shelves were better stocked, the mood noticeably steadier. Not perfect, but steadier. Alden no longer wore an apron. He came in wearing his actual name tag now, though he still dressed like he didn't own the place. Most days, he kept to the corner of the prep area, listening more than talking, taking notes, helping where he could. His presence had shifted from surprise to routine. People stopped tiptoeing around him. They handed him trays to dry, asked him to hold the door, passed him stacks of forms without hesitation. He liked that. The new shift supervisor, a soft-spoken woman named Carla, who transferred in from Store 3, was already making a difference. She didn't bark orders. She asked for help. She didn't monitor. She worked. There were still gaps in the schedule, still days when Jonah had to stay an hour past his shift or Delia had to jump from prep to inventory without a break, but no one was doing it alone anymore. That mattered. Marcus had picked up a second job at a nearby rec center, just weekends. Alden had offered him a full-time role with benefits last week, and he'd asked for time to think about it. The fact that he wasn't immediately desperate to say yes was, in itself, a sign of progress. Late that Thursday afternoon, Alden sat in the back hallway on a plastic stool, peeling garlic beside a crate. The kitchen smelled like cumin and baked squash. Jonah was nearby, folding clean aprons into a storage bin. You're not bad at that, Jonah said. Peeling or sitting? Alden asked. Both. Alden smiled faintly and set another clove in the bowl. You still doing those morning shifts on school days? He asked.
Yeah.
But only 3 days now. Carla made a schedule that gives me Thursdays off. You use it to sleep in? Jonah shook his head. Library. Quiet there. I get more done. Alden leaned back slightly. You thinking about college? Jonah nodded. Community first. Maybe transfer later if I can. Depends on scholarships. You'll get them. Jonah shrugged. We'll see. Alden didn't push it. The boy had the kind of quiet drive that didn't need pep talks, it just needed space to work. A soft knock came from the front entrance. It was past meal service, but the outer doors were still open for cleanup. Carla walked over and opened it. A woman stood there, holding a little girl's hand. Her coat was still too big, but this time the zipper worked. The boy beside her had a backpack again, this time with a reflective strip stitched on. Alden stood slowly. The woman's eyes scanned the room. She looked at Alden, then Carla, then back again. Her voice was cautious. Someone told me things had changed here. Carla nodded. They have. The woman hesitated, then stepped inside. We don't need food today. Not yet. Just wanted to see if it was true. It is, Alden said. She looked at him carefully. You were here before. You tried to speak up. I should have done more, he said. She gave a small nod, then looked down at the girl beside her. This is Avery. And my son, Malik. The boy nodded once. The girl waved shyly. We have a new outreach coordinator, Carla said. If you're ever in need again, we can connect you to more than just meals. Housing, work contacts, school support. The woman's shoulders eased. Just a little. We might come back tomorrow. You're always welcome, Carla said. They left quietly, but not hurriedly. Jonah stood beside Alden as the door closed behind them. You knew they'd come back? No, Alden said. But I hoped they would. That night, Delia stayed behind to help Carla with inventory. Alden offered to walk out with Jonah, who was packing up his bag in the break room. Outside, the night had settled in. The sky was clear for once, stars visible above the alley. Trash bins had been moved, and the sidewalk was swept for the first time in weeks. You think it'll hold? Jonah asked as they reached the sidewalk. The changes?
Yeah.
People said it'd go back to how it was once attention faded. Alden paused. You're not wrong to be cautious. But I'm not leaving this time. I've made that mistake already. Jonah adjusted his backpack. You ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't come undercover? All the time. The street lamp above them buzzed faintly. I didn't see what was happening, because I didn't want to. I trusted the wrong people and ignored the right ones. That won't happen again. Jonah nodded. Good. Alden looked at him. You ever think about managing a place like this? Not now, but down the line. Maybe. Jonah paused. Wouldn't want to forget what it's like to be on this side of it, though. Then you'd already be ahead of most. Jonah gave a small nod and started down the sidewalk. See you Monday. Alden watched him go, then turned back toward the building. It looked different now. Not just cleaner or more organized, alive in a way it hadn't been in a long time. It wasn't fixed. It never would be, not entirely, but it was growing in the right direction. Inside, Carla and Delia had finished inventory and were locking up the dry storage. Marcus had left a note on the bulletin board, offering to pick up Saturday coverage if anyone needed it. Someone had written "Thank you" underneath in blue pen. Alden stepped into the office and sat down. He pulled out a notebook from the top drawer. The pages were filled with scribbles, notes, ideas, staff quotes, reminders. At the top of a fresh page, he wrote, "Leadership isn't about fixing everything. It's about being there when it's broken and staying while it heals." He closed the notebook. Then he turned off the light, locked the door behind him, and walked back into the quiet night.